morning. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening to friends in North America, and hello to anyone watching on replay. My name is Nancy Hetker, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne, Australia. And today I am going to do a little play with this Driving By stamp set from Celebration. This is our Celebration brochure. Hello, Roseanne. Thanks for joining me today. Anybody who comes on board with us, please say hello so I know you're here. So what I was going to tell you is here in Australia, Celebration, the brochure says it goes to the 28th of February, but if you've been paying attention, you may realize that we did not have the bulk of the items in here available to us for the first several weeks of the Celebration period. So Stampin' Up! Has extended our Celebration until the 16th of March. So there's lots of time to get all of these gorgeous, gorgeous goodies. And they are free for a minimum order. Most of them are free with a $90 minimum order. The ones that are free with a $180 minimum order are really spectacular. Like, this is a bundle with this beautiful Friendly Hello stamp set and the coordinating paper. And the other one is this Special Moments. It has lots of great sentiments in it, and it's a great thing to have in your stash for long term. And that's with a $180 purchase. But these others are very cute and very fun, and I'm pleased to have them. There's that pretty daffodil paper that coordinates with the daffodil set in the mini catalog. So today, if you don't have any of these, drop me a note and I will be happy to send you Celebration, the mini, and the annual catalogs. The other little bit of trivia I wanted to let you know about is I'm once again doing mystery stamping this Saturday morning here Melbourne time. It'll be Friday evening in North America. And if you go to nancysniftynotes.com and click on classes and scroll down, you'll get a link to the supply lists for both cards that we're going to do. If you can't make my live Zoom time, I will post it on YouTube, and you can follow along with the clues at that point. So I just want to put a little plug in for that coming up this weekend. And now we're going to get started. I'm actually not going to reinvent the wheel too much. Let me find this page here. I am going to recreate this card that the concept artists have made for the brochure. I'm changing it up slightly because of the supplies that I have, but my go-to for coloring these days are the Stampin' Blends, but I noticed that they are showing this at least being colored with a Stampin' Write marker. And so I was hemming and hawing about which one I should use to make this card, and I thought, well, let's do a side-by-side comparison, and I'll use the one that I think came out better. Because it's been a while since I've done a lot of coloring with the Stampin' Write markers, even though I own all of them. So we're going to give that a try. My biggest change from this card is going to be the pink that I'm using. I believe they're using polished pink in here, and because of the paper that I have in my stash, I'm actually switching it up to Magenta Madness because I have a bit of this designer series paper in my stash. So that's Magenta Madness, and we're going to use that. So I have my stamp mounted up, and I'm going to stamp it twice because we're going to color twice, but because we're using two different coloring mediums, Stampin' Write markers are water-based, and so I'm going to stamp it in the Stays-On ink to color with those. And because the Stampin' Blends are alcohol based, I'm going to use the Memento. If I mix these around, the black would smear. I have stamped in Memento and colored successfully with the water-based markers, but you have to be really, really careful. And this stamp, it has some lines that I want to be able to color over. So we're just gonna make sure that we have the option of coloring the way we want to. So I'm going to start with the Memento, and I'm going to make sure, I'm going to bring in the die that we're going to use. Yeah, make sure that we have enough space on there. I thought I'd made sure, but it doesn't hurt to double check. And we can try again if we don't like it. Good morning, Annette. How are you? And then we'll clean the Memento off of this pad. Hello, Paula. I did see you there, and Gladys. Thanks for joining me. So I am going to put a tiny little M down in this corner so I don't forget that that is my Memento side. And then there's my stays on. And it's called stays on because it stays on anything you get it on. It is a permanent ink. Put a little S there just to be very, very clear. And that will stain the red rubber or the photopolymer. When it dries, it doesn't ever come off, so it won't transfer. You can stamp with anything you want after that, but if you don't like your stamps being stained, you can use the Stays On cleaner, and it comes right off. And it's got a little bit of you can see here where I spattered it. It's a little bit oily, so I don't like to use my chamois to clean the Stays On cleaner off. I use a damp paper towel. You know, if I use my Stays On a lot, I'd probably feel differently, but I don't use it very much. So there we go. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring that out and this back in. So this is the Stays On side, so we're going to color with the Stampin' Right markers. And both of these markers have the same indicator on them. There's a thin line at one end and a thick line at the other end, and that's because they have bullet tips at one end and brush tips at the other end. So I'm going to pull out my brush tip and start coloring. Now, one thing I remember, yeah, that stays on, is that these tend to get more lines showing. So you have to be kind of careful about direction and overlap and things like that. So we'll see how well this comes out. What's going on with you guys while I sit here and color? Sorry, you can't see very much when I'm coloring with my hand right in front, huh? The ice is finally melting. Good. Good. And we've started heating up again, which is not so good, but it is what it is. Okay, let's do some tires. We got some exciting stuff happening with Nicole, my daughter. We're working on getting her a new assistance dog. She's had her current one, Booth, for, gosh, it's hard to believe, 7 years now. And he's a great dog, but he's starting to show his age. So we're working with an organization here in Australia to get her a new one. And they're based in Adelaide, so it looks like in a couple weeks we'll probably be heading over there to meet all of them. Get a sense of the dog they want to place with her. Oops. So that's fun and exciting, and it's we get to go somewhere for the first time in 2 years. I think it'll, except for that day trip Glenn and I did to the Bellarine Peninsula, I think it's the first time we'll have left 5 kilometers of the CBD in 2 years. So. Yeah. Okay, and because I want to put some ground there, so it's not just floating in space, but I don't want it to be as dark as any of these markers. So I'm bringing in the gray granite stamp pad. And gray granite's what I use on the bumper and the hubcaps. And just picking up a little bit of color with the blender pen. And I'm just gonna try to rub in a little bit of ground there. Okay, now we're going to do with the Stampin' sorry, the Stampin' blends. Goodness, let's see if I can get this right here. Just going to go for the dark, I think. Yeah. So with these, because they're designed to blend together, you don't have to worry about the overlap lines like you do with watercolor markers. Which is a nice thing, I think. Come in here with the light. Let's see if I can just get a little. Just going around the edge a little bit, just to. Yeah, it's not really doing a lot, but we'll see here. So with Booth, he continues to be her dog. As they transition, she'll take both dogs with her, and he's gonna wind up spending a bit more time. Well, he's really never been left alone. So what we'll probably do is start with him spending time with me and Glenn when we're home and she needs to be out, and get him used to separating from her a bit more, and we'll just sort of transition into being left with us for longer and longer periods of time, and then being left in her apartment for short amount of time, and building up, just to, you know, just so he can transition into his new life too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he's going to feel about all that. But we have, it's going to be another year, probably. Maybe not quite so long, depending on how things work out, until we get a new trained pup. So at this point, we're mostly keeping our fingers crossed that Booth stays healthy and able to work until she gets the new dog, because like I said, he is starting to show his age. So some dogs retire easily into being just staying at home, hanging out, and some dogs struggle. He is so attached to her that he could wind up struggling. We'll just have to see how it goes. There. And a little touch of pool party. Oh no, it's terrible when dogs eat things that make them sick. Okay. Now to do the ground on this one, I'm coming in with my gray granite Stampin' Blend. I do kind of like that, but I am going to go over it. I've got the color lifter, which I understand why they called it that, but it's kind of a color pusher because it pushes the color to the back of the cardstock. Doesn't really blend it, it just pushes the pigment. And it takes a minute or two. I'm going to show you the back here. You can see color bleeds through anyway when you put it on pretty strongly. And this just pushes that ink towards the back of the paper more. And so it kind of lightens it up a bit. And it can take a little bit for it to work. There, you can see it's starting to come through much more now. I'm going to leave that like that for now. So far, do you see a difference? Do you see have a preference? Whoops, that went too far, didn't it? There we go. Can turn it this way. Anybody? I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss. Get rid of that. Yes, much smoother with the blends. Like the, yeah, I agree. There's a reason I keep going back to my blends. you may see here, yep, I'm, my stamping wasn't level, so I'm angling my die to make up for it. So there they both are. This one I didn't get angled quite right, but that's okay. It's going to be good enough. Because I like the coloring. I agree, the coloring on the blends is more to my liking. So, set that aside. I might go ahead and use it anyway sometime. Bring in some other things. Oh, we got one more bit of stamping to do. And that's for the sentiment. So I've got a scrap of Pool Party, and I'm using my embossing buddy. If you're in Australia and you do not have a Stampin' Buddy or embossing buddy, Stampin' Up! Stopped carrying them, but I have some in my stash that I sell at cost. So again, you can get in touch with me and I'd be happy to facilitate that for you. I'm bringing in my Versamark. I'm going to stamp "You've Got Style" right on there. And I'm actually prepared today. I've got my heat embossing set up here, my white embossing powder, and my heat tool. You guys see this? It's so cool how it changes. There. You may wonder why I have everything in that box. It's because that powder can go everywhere, even when you're being really, really careful. So that just helps me keep it all contained. And I'm just putting dye on there and cutting this out. See there? Love these little dies. You've got style. Now we can go ahead and put this guy together. Where's my bone folder? There we go. Just like to get a nice crisp burnished fold there, because then it lies flat and I can work with it. So this is cut to the same size. I could put this on a Magenta Madness card base, but since the front's totally covered anyway, I just use the white and then I don't have to put a separate piece inside. So well lined up there. And I'm going to bring in the picture for you guys to see again. This is what I'm casing today. It's this one right here. So they've got this pool party piece. This is from the hippos. And what we do is give it a snip in half. It doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight because most of it's going to be covered. I'll show you how I do this bit. I just add a bit of glue there. And looks to me that they lined it up with where these points on the die cut piece are. So I'm really going to line it up straight, really. There we go. Just turn it around and do it the same way again because that's how I can see easily. And if I take the time and use my grid paper, it's helpful. Yeah. And then they had, this is probably too long. This was a scrap I had. I wanted to see. So the card in here is done to American sizes, so it's a little wider and a little shorter than mine. So mine is not going to look exactly the same proportionally, but there we go. Glue that on. I have a feeling they glued these down and popped these up, but I'm doing mine this way. So many competing lines to eyeball things. This I am going to pop up. Go, and I'm gonna figure out where to snip it here. And add that with some glue. There we go. Oh, yeah, I don't tend to find, vellum tends to warp a bit. I don't find that other things warp. I use as thin a bead as I can. I use it very sparingly, and I do smooth it out so that there's not like a pool of it that's gonna dry up and shrink up. Yeah, I do find vellum is more likely to buckle, but again, I'm only using little bits of it usually in places. Yeah, I think if you saw, I moved pretty quickly and made just that thin bead of glue. If I feel something's really heavy and needs more in the middle, I'll do a zigzag. But yeah. My problem with tear and tape, I love tear and tape. It holds like nothing else. But the problem is if I put something down and I want to nudge it a little bit, once it's down, it's down. So, yeah. And I don't have a lot of experience with the Stampin' Seal. I know the old snail, I found that it dried out and things fell off. So I wasn't so thrilled with that. I have been using Seal Plus. Seal I found frustrating the way the old, oh, what was it? The one in the black tape runner that got discontinued. Anyway, yeah, so my favorite is my go-to 99% of the time is the multi-purpose glue. Having been a tape runner person for a very long time. And then I go to tear and tape if I need something else that's not liquid. But anyway, yeah, try using less glue in that and see if that helps. So I still have this one. I probably will stick it on another card or not. It was a fun experiment. Yeah, I'm standing by the Stampin' blends, you know, unless you just don't have a color. But there are times when having the markers are nice, but they're usually for other techniques other than just coloring in. If I can do a blend, I'll do that. I think I'm reconvinced that that's the way to go. So, thank you for joining me today. Like I said, if you need a celebration catalog, because it's been extended for a couple weeks into the 16th of May. In fact, I can even write that on here. Here we go. 16 May, 16 March. That would be something, wouldn't it? I'd be happy to send one to you. You can also get to it through my website, nancysniftynotes.com. You can link to my Stampin' Up! Store and see everything there. And of course, you can place an order there. If you would like some help figuring out what to order to get started, I'm happy to advise on that. I have lots of experience getting new stampers started with things. If you're in Australia and you would like to join my team, I would love to have you. So, that's what I have for now. Join me again, same time, same place next week, and I will do another project for you. See you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.